Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and this time around we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay, specialized market artwork, Dior, cashmere, and doing consignment the right way for maximum profit. And let's just get right into it today. I'm going to switch it up and talk about consignment in the later part of the video. And here we have an Hermes tie. It's a vintage one. It's a little different than what you normally see from them. Usually they do things that are a little more artistic as opposed to geometric. And here we have the H logo, and it's a pretty cool tie. Like I said, a little different. And I sold that for $75 in 3 weeks. This is a vintage long cashmere, 100% cashmere coat. And it's got that really nice neckline with the turned down collar, and it dates probably to like the late 50s, early 60s. I sold that for $74.99. Oh, and I'm sorry, I sold that one in about 6.5 months. This is a peach and pink floral alabaster trinket jewelry box, and took me over a year and a half to move that, and I sold that for $22.50, shipped out to Texas. This is a Knickerbocker teddy bear that I picked up at the Weigh and Go, and I posted it for, actually, and some of them were going for as high as $55-$60. I ended up selling that at best offer for $30, and that sold in about 2.5 months. Hopefully I didn't put this one in another video. I don't think I did. This is an Andres Bohacker painting. It's actually print, and then there is like some touch-ups done on the surface. I ended up selling this for $22, and I had it for nearly 2 years. I guess it just isn't one of my better decisions to buy, but I still like it. And anyway, like I said, I shipped that and made about 22 bucks off it. This is a large doily with raised pink flowers. I feel very sorry for all these people that asked me for measurements that I never gave them for this. It's just awful. For some reason, I put it away and just never got around to it. And I got asked a lot about this thing. Anyway, I ended up selling this for $20. This is a small lot of celluloid animals. You can see, I think that's like a ram or a sheep or something. He's even missing part of a leg. Primarily, people probably bought this for the composition dog you see there in the upper right-hand corner. And I sold this for $30 and shipped it in under a month to Connecticut. Here's a lot of Zany's squeaky toys. For some reason I pictured 5, but there was actually 6 of them, and I sold these guys for $21, and took me about 2 weeks to move them. And finally, I found this very unusual antique. It's a Belgian tapestry of Japanese women conversing in a pagoda. And usually you don't see a lot of Belgian tapestries with this sort of design on it. And I did sell for $199, and took me under 3 weeks to sell it. This is a Dior logo gold tone necklace. Came with a perfume purchase, so it's not one of their flagship lines of jewelry that they have. And I sold this for $49.99. And from here on out, we will get into the specialized artwork portion of the program. And I'm also going to talk about how that worked in context of consignment. I wanted to talk about how to do consignment the right way. As some of you may have discovered, there's a right way and a wrong way. And I like to think that I have a somewhat of a system down where, or at least I have a basic foundation of things that I like to think about before I accept a consignment. Especially when economies are on the fritz, you'll find that people come out of the woodwork. And in my case, the series of things I'm going to show you next came about as a result of being contacted by a couple that had been Madoffed by Bernie Madoff. At the time, I was selling some very specialized artwork that I had on eBay. And they contacted me that way. My partner and I went up to Madison Avenue and talked to them. And they were retiring, and they had a business that they wanted to essentially consign through us They had looked into specialty auction houses for things that they wanted to sell, and they kind of felt uncomfortable with the arrangements. We talked about it. We came up with an arrangement. I gave it a lot of thought, and my partner and I decided to do it. Here we have an American Fabrics magazine, and this is like one of a series that I got on this consignment. And I sold this one for $44. And I'm going to show you real quickly an article in it to kind of explain to you what these people did for a living, how it applies to things that we use every day, and why some of the items that I sold did better than one would think they would do. All right, so first of all, just give me a thumbs down now. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't have time to go back and flip this picture, but I'm showing you this anyway to make a point. This is a piece of art, and it's in that magazine that I just showed you. And in this art picture here in the magazine, they're asking how many different things can you find that you could be inspired to make a design with. So they ask you to look at this picture and kind of, segment it out and see how many usable parts there are and what you would use them for to make money off of. So here we have a series of items that they came up with. They came up with, on the lower right, they came up with a curtain print for home furnishings. So there you have a curtain. You have a few girls there with various designs on their clothing. There's some wallpaper and so forth. So the point of the whole article basically was like, look, you can go look at artwork in a museum and you can pick out designs, sketch them, and bring them back and apply them to real life. And that is essentially what a lot of designers do in the clothing and home furnishings industry. Now, of course, things have dramatically modernized since, that time frame. Now you're getting into using CAD and things like that. But some things don't change, and there are still a lot of companies out there that literally want to possess the actual vintage fabric or original artwork and use that for inspiration for their designs. And here's, I know this is like, so let's go to school today, But I just want to show you in practice what gets done with some of these prints. And here they're doing a block print on some fabric, and they're doing wallpaper. The person that actually bought this magazine, the American Fabrics magazine I just showed you for $44, works at a company that does like customized and hand-printed wallpapers and fabrics. And actually, I went and I took a picture right off their website. I mean, they literally hand do this stuff. So it's kind of cool to see specialized items go from literally one location to the other, and how they get used in the process. So this is a book of design art plates from France, and it was a privately made book, very limited circulation. It's essentially for the design industry. There's the cover of it. And here's another plate in that book. And generally what they'll do is they'll scan, whatever one they decide to use, they'll scan it in their computer and they'll fiddle with it until they get the design that they want to use for whether it's a home furnishing or a shirt or anything like that. And we did sell that for $199. So here's where we get into the really specialized items. This is original artwork. So, in other words, what people, even to this day, still do, especially with Echo, Scarves, and Vera Bradley, and Ralph Lauren, and Woolrich, and some of the other companies, they'll do their original designs. Some people will do what's called sending them on spec, meaning if they have a relationship that they trust, they'll just mail in items. So, for example, I might send an email or call a designer and say, hey, I'm looking for paisleys, preferably small paisleys with bright colors. And, you know, a person will go through all their original artwork and designs, or they'll draw something up and then they'll either mail them in the old-fashioned way, or they'll, you know, select another method, or sometimes they'll just arrange a bunch of appointments during a course of a week or so, and then just, you know, bust it all out at one time. So this person, or this group, had a huge selection of original artwork that they did in the 70s and 80s. And they wanted to sell it. Now, I know from having seen previous original artwork sell at specialized auctions that I attended, that some of them go for quite a bit of money. And also, I knew the names of the people that had attended them because they were always bidding against each other for the original artwork. Because essentially, what they, like I said, what they do is they buy the original artwork, and sometimes they'll tweak it and sometimes they won't, and they'll turn it and they'll sell it for, you know, a pretty decent sum of money. In any event, the series of original artwork I'm going to show you, I actually sold to someone who has their own reality television show. They own a very large Los Angeles, Hollywood boutique. Part of the branch of their boutique, they do a lot of things along these lines where they have designers come in and they're buying fabric samples and whatnot. So anyway, this particular book, I mean, it is what it is. It's a simple bound, well, spiral bound book with the original artwork. There's some specifications on the side of the paisley there. I sold that for $799. And here's another page of it. And here's, again, another artwork with some, I'm trying to read what that says. I think that they went to production with that piece. They might have actually had a print drawn up. I'll show you an example of that. So here's a page in the book where they actually had somebody print out on fabric some colorways of a paisley that they did. So you have the same design there, but you have it in like 3 or 4 different colorways. So here's a book of scarves that basically are mostly equestrian motifs. There's some nautical in there. And to drop a hint, I guess, if you look at some of the artwork here, it might give you an indication as to a few designers that fall into this kind of genre of what they like to put on their accessories. And this book also, of original artwork, also went to the same individual who purchased the other book. And I also sold this for $7.99. And actually at auction, if you go and you look at, it might be on Live Auctioneers. If not, what's the name? Maybe it's invaluable.com. Well, anyway, if you look, I know that there were auctions last year on original art designs for fabric. You may have to do some research to find them, but the $7.99 sticker I put on each of these is very reasonable. They can, if you get in a bidding war, I've seen original artwork go anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000. Now I know what you're asking me. Well, why on earth did you only sell it for $7.99? Well, the person buying it bought a huge amount of stuff, and the issue with the artwork is that if you saw it all together, it would be rather obvious who probably bought most of the original artwork during the careers of these people. So there was a bit of an issue, not with a copyright issue or legal issue, just in general of this kind of has a flair for a couple of well-known huge Madison Avenue companies. So there would probably be you know, there would have to be some playing around with the artwork a little bit so that it doesn't fall under, oh, well, this is obviously this. I know it's kind of hard to explain, but it made sense to me at the time, and I think that in lieu of the fact that it was a rather large buy as a whole, it made sense to do it that way. But check that out. Yeah, there's a few places online where you can see the ending results for some of the more specialized auctions. The next spiral bound original artwork book is a book of just small prints that you would put on maybe handkerchiefs, ties, shirts, things of that nature. And here's another page of the same book. And if you take a close look at the designs here, it'll probably give you a flavor of at least one of the places where you might see a design like this. Whoops, sorry, also that went to the same buyer, same price. So here we have a book of what are called club colors, which include like regimental stripes and university colors and things of that nature. And this book, again, had about 62 pages of samples. And like I said, they included like varsity, university colors, clubs, hospitals in England. And I sold that to actually a really nice woman in the United Kingdom for $499. And this is a simple, rather small size book. What are called fancy vestings, which are essentially white on white designs. And you might use white on whites, like they're tonal white on whites. You might use those on shirts and undergarments and things of that nature. And here you can see the samples, the way they were cut and put into the book. These are probably turn of the century, and I sold this for $175. This is a book that is very well known to architects and designers, and it's called Grammar of Ornament by Jones. This is an 1865 edition with a ton of really nice, well-preserved design plates in it, and it has a ton of Victorian color prints, and it's a classic work in the field. There's a lot of reproductions out on this now, but if you're looking for the older copy of this, they can get very expensive, and I sold this one for $724.99. And here is the title page of the book, and even the title page looks pretty darn nice. But here is where we get into the really lush, beautiful designs of that era. And the person who put this book together back in the day was primarily really looking for the best of various eras, whether they were Egyptian, Persian, Greek, Turkish, Persian, Indian, Chinese, Celtic, whatever. I mean, he just took the best of the best. Owen Jones, who put this book together, was one of the leading English architects and ornamental designers of the time. So what people would do is they would look at the designs in this book when they were planning their English wallpaper, the carpets, and the furniture. Finally, you can see at least a little bit in this page some trim, edging, and borders that would have been put on everything from wallpaper to stationery. Just to change gears a little bit, but still with the same client, I'm going to show you some plates of antique Japanese kimonos, all done in black and white. Here's another part of that book. It was not in good condition at all. In fact, it didn't even have the cover. And here you have the spine, which is a disaster. I mean, it's pretty poor condition. At least it wasn't moldy or wet. You know what I mean? It was just in poorly preserved shape. But I was able to sell the book, including the plates, for $150. And actually, I posted it and sold within 2 days. And here's another portfolio of design inspiration. They're also black and white plates, primarily Art Nouveau, arts and crafts, and Art Deco type designs. And here are a few of the plates. For example, the bottom print there, you could turn that vertically, and I think that would make a really fantastic print for a dress. But you get the point, and that's essentially what they did with those. I sold that book for, I believe I sold that one also for $199, and that also sold fairly quickly. I bet you're wondering, where's the catch? Guess what? There's a catch. Here's the catch. With any consignor, you have to take, if you decide to take the consignor, you take the good with the bad, right? And that may include all kinds of things. For example, with this consignor, there were items that did extremely well, and then there are items that didn't do extremely well. For example, this framed print that was hand signed sold for $35, and I had to, I foolishly, at the time, I didn't do a fixed price auction on that like I do now. I did that. I thought it would do better than it did. I started it at $35, thinking that it would finish somewhere between 150 and 225, and it died. So, whoops. And so I guess that should bring us into, the factors of taking a consignor. The first one is, in our case, you have to the very first thing I look at when I think of taking on a consignor is, are they crazy? Are they litigious? Are they going to make me insane? You really need to do a background check. And I don't mean go crazy with the background check, but at least go on what's called PACER, federal PACER, PACER, and take a look at the state, local level, and federal level, and see, do a lawsuit check, because you don't want to get involved with someone who files a lawsuit at the drop of a dime. You just don't want that to happen, because they're stressful, B, they take a lot of time, and C, it's just a real pain in the ass. So you don't want a person who's going to be high maintenance, unless, and there's a caveat to that, unless they can lead to other clients that are worth having. So in this case, when we met with these people, they had a reputation for being real ball busters, but they were really nice to us, and they were nice to us from day one. And my partner was very exacting in all the accounting, which was good, because our counterpart for the accounting on their side of the transaction was very precise about things, and they darn well should be. That's probably why they have so much money. So yes, that was a critical component of being extremely organized, was the accounting, which was handled by my partner. He did a great job with that. The other component, like I said, is do a background check on whoever you're considering. And you roll your eyes, but I'm telling you, it's the one time that you decline to do it is the one time you wish you had. I don't know that from experience. I know that from other people's experience. So I rather learn from someone else's experience. You can go on Pacer and do a quick check, excuse me, and it doesn't cost you anything unless you print something out. So you might want to think about that. It's totally up to you. Here is the result of one of their designs that sold. It was a Pendleton flannel shirt. I sold that for $35. And again, it's an expectations issue, especially when you go from selling things that are really up there back down to quote unquote normal prices. It can be a real change, a real shock to the system. I try to kind of take these things as they go, and cultivate the relationship and hope they lead to a long-term relationship or lead to other things. This particular relationship resulted in me obtaining several long-term clients that I can show my fabric samples. That I have a archive of fabric samples that I like to cart around with me from time to time. And as a result of my relationship that was formed from this, I was able to take on former clients of theirs since they had retired. And I go up and see, excuse me, these various groups from time to time, and it's always a ball to go. It's a hoot. Okay, so again, that's another thing that you want to think about if you're going to take on a consignor. And you got to really have a more than just a educated guess, because you don't want to saddle yourself in an area of selling things where it's boring to you or uncomfortable, and then at the end of the day, there's nothing else that really, spins out from that. You know what I mean? So, that's another thing that I like to think about. So, again, networking, using your consignment contact to further network out is a great benefit to any consignment arrangement. Guess how much I made off this? We made zero off this. And the reason is because the consignor saw this go up on eBay and freaked out. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to include that. I don't know how it got in there. And we took it down, and it was a big waste of time. One of the most important things that you have to do when you take on a consignor is A, manage expectations, and also B, are they a hoarder, or are they just, taking back a few things here and there? Because what happens is sometimes, you go and you visit your consignor to pick up some things and they won't let you take anything. And that is not a consignment relationship that you want to have with somebody. So you really have to feel that out. If you can manage their emotions and manage their expectations as to pricing and what you expect to sell things for, it's always better to kind of try to lower their expectations. And I know it sounds awful, but you don't want to tell them unrealistic pricing and then not be able to hit it, because then people just get pissed at you, and that is not what you want. It will really sour a relationship and end up with you having to court back a ton of stuff and basically just losing your shirt. You really got to know going in what you're getting yourself into, the type of people you're getting involved with, and of course you're going to have to bring a contract. Always bring your own contract. I'm not going to tell you to get an attorney, although you probably should. But there's a lot of them online that you can kind of customize to what you want to do. Take it up there, get it signed so everybody knows what the expectations are in writing. And, again, when in doubt about the people you're dealing with, check them out first so that you're not wasting your precious time on a situation that's just not going to work out for either of you. So, again, like I said, do a proper background check. Make sure that what you're going to accept a consignment for is actually going to do very well. Make sure you're thorough about that. And make sure you do all the accounting just very properly, be very organized. And as always, you absolutely have to manage expectations and control your clients. Otherwise, they will run you over. So that is it for now, guys. And hopefully you enjoyed this portion of the program. Oh, and of course, very quickly, probably the most important thing above all else is what the arrangement is in terms of percentage and earnings. You obviously want to do what works best for you, and generally that will be probably a larger percentage of the take than what perhaps the client would want. I would look and see what eBay Valet and what the industry standard is in your area, and that's probably going to vary. For example, the percentage would likely be different in New York City as opposed to Cheyenne, Wyoming, okay? So check that out. You want to be competitive. You don't know if they are only considering you or another group. And again, you really have to crunch the numbers in terms of the time you're going to spend on it, the type of people you're dealing with, whether they're high maintenance or whether they kind of go with the flow, and really sit down and take a hard look at it, because it may look fantastic and it may feel exciting, but it's when you get right down to it and in the middle of doing it, you get really into the grind, when you finally really find out whether or not you made the right choice. In our situation, I know we made the right choice. It's something that is still paying itself forward to this day in terms of new clients. So it worked out very well for us. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'd like to do a few other things like this in the future. I think I mentioned a possible lace workshop, looking at antique and vintage and contemporary lace. Anyway, so, I will be doing some more things like this or similar to this, more focused into certain types of field, fabric dating, things like that. And if you're interested in that, let me know. And anyway, subscribe, tell others, and have a fantastic month. Good hunting.